You are weak because you love easy stuff. And I'm not specifically talking about having big muscles or being strong. You are weak as a result of you being aligned more to easy stuff. And it's not your fault. It's just our primal design to always want to do easier things so that we can conserve energy for days when we need more energy. That's how our brain is wired. That's why you would rather scroll all day than go out there and do something meaningful with your life. You would rather watch content than read. You would rather sit in the couch all day than go out there and have an evening walk. You'd rather be on dating apps than go out there and talk to someone in real life. This is how our brain is designed to love easy stuff so that we can conserve energy for days where we'll need more energy. But that was back then when we still have less things to be focusing on, when we still have less things to pursue in life. But now that we've developed due to evolution, our brain is more developed in form of the prefrontal cortex rather than the limbic part of the brain that is meant for only survival and reproduction. Now we need to live more meaningful. We need to live more purposefully. That is the reason why we have so many goals to achieve nowadays. And with time, we need to adapt to how our brain has evolved. We need to start keeping away things of too much pleasure and enjoyment and work more on things that are meaningful and purposeful. You've always loved easy stuff. You never want to do anything difficult because it's kind of tasking. And then your brain aligns more to this. Your brain relies more on you doing soft, easy, pleasurable, and enjoyable things. Now, when it's time to work on your craft, when it's time to work on your purpose, when it's time to go out there and talk to somebody, when it's time to build a goal, when it's time to work on something meaningful and purposeful, it becomes difficult, it becomes boring, and then what do? You go to social media and start scrolling again. You feel you need to eat more junk food because it's palatable. You feel you need to play video games more because just sitting by yourself in your own thoughts, in your own mindfulness and presence seems abnormal, seems boring, seems like something that is difficult to do. That is why you are becoming weak and weak day by day. You are becoming emotionally shallow. You can't process your own thoughts. You don't know that ideally, pleasure, reward comes from you doing something meaningful. After you've done something meaningful, then the reward comes. Back then, our ancestors, when they go to hunt for meat, that is their work task. What do they get in return? They get food, and food is pleasurable. They would usually level up their status so that they can get or they can be desirable to the opposite gender, and then they can get a partner and get offsprings and continue their bloodline. That's the reward. But now, you don't need to work. You can just level up on video games. You don't need to approach somebody. You don't need to level up in real life to be desirable. You can just go onto dating apps and start talking to people. So you are not able to feel the full emotion of working and then getting rewards. Do you now see how we have evolved as humans from having to do meaningful things, getting meaningful rewards and feeling purposeful to getting cheap, easy rewards from modern technological advancement? That's why we're emotionally shallow today. We can't process our own emotions and thoughts. We feel that childhood trauma, those things that we're keeping in our minds, those baggages, we can just cope from it. We can just shy away from those feelings and emotions. That's why we have addiction problems today. We're indulging in social media, junk food, video games, loud fast music, substances. This is just a coping mechanism from emotions that we've not processed properly, emotions that we've not processed completely. And we keep shying away from these emotions. We can't have those difficult conversations with loved ones. Just shy away whenever we are bored. Can't sit mindful and present. We just feel okay. Let's just play video games. Let's while away the time by watching content, watching comedy, by just fooling around with social media and modern technology. Whereas we are meant to be mindful, present in our own thoughts, process our emotions, shake away the childhood trauma, and feel better. Social media, modern technology advancements, pleasurable activities like junk food, video games, loud fast music, and so on. It's just a coping mechanism. And we get addicted to these things because our body latches onto these pleasurable activities because it brings rewards. And then we forget our problems, we forget our soul. Of course, we need to unwind sometimes, but not at the expense of your sanity. Why do we have more addiction problems, anxiety, depression, attention deficit, obsessive disorders, intrusive thoughts? It's just because we refuse to process our thoughts emotionally. We refuse to process our emotions and our feelings properly. We shy away by coping with modern technological advancements. That is why we are weak today. Of course, if you've not been training in the gym, you've not been training yourself, or probably you've not been lifting heavy stuff. When difficulties comes, when challenges comes, when it's time to lift heavy stuff, it's difficult for you because you are not used to it. You're always looking for every cheap source of reward. You're always looking for every instant source of dopamine that you can get. You don't want to feel uncomfortable. You don't want to feel bored. You don't want to feel just by yourself without any form of stimulation. You've made your brain love stimulation so much that you can't process emotions properly. You can't stay strong in difficult situations. You lack resilience. You can't handle difficult emotions and difficult situations. You can't handle challenges without having to cope with social media, without having to cope with content, without having to cope with modern technological devices, playing video games, watching movies all day. Could you even just stay with 1 hour without stimulating yourself? It's very difficult today to stay just even 30 minutes without having to stimulate, without looking for that instant source of stimulation that you can get. It's because your brain is wired that way, and you've even trained your brain more to align to instant pleasure and stimulation rather than just sitting by your own thoughts, doing meaningful activities, focusing on your work, focusing on your craft, taking a walk, spending time with loved ones, making wholesome meals, taking care of your surroundings and environment, having meaningful conversations with family and friends, having social interaction without having to scroll all day, look for instances of stimulation and dopamine. You can do better. That's what we're preaching. This is the primal self, where we reject modern excess and restore human balance. If you watch the video this far, it means this message resonates with you. Welcome to the tribe.